I'm Jeff Huth. I'm a sports writer with the News-Gazette and have been there since, believe it or not, since September of 1979. I'm originally from Milwaukee, and I went to the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, and I was in what was called the Mass Communications Department. I don't believe it's called that anymore, but I was in the journalism division of mass communications at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Graduated in December of 1976. Well, I think with a blog you have a little bit more leeway in terms of both your topics and also kind of putting some opinion into the blog. I think that there are some subjects that maybe get the information out, but they aren't worthy perhaps of a complete story like you might find in the newspaper itself. So there's some differentiation there in terms of both subject matter, and also I think it gives you an opportunity to express your opinion more. I think that's kind of what people look for in a blog. I think it's very, very important to be accurate. I think if people read this, read my stories on a regular basis and see that, I think you maintain a trust not only with the athletes and the coaches that you cover. It's very important to maintain a trust with your readers as well, because they have to, when they see your byline and they read your story, it's important to me, and I'm sure it's important to them, to know that this person has worked diligently at getting at being accurate, has worked diligently at trying to explain to the best of my ability what is going on. To me, I think there's not only a working relationship with your coaches and your athletes, I think there's that relationship with your readers too that I really value. I think what I like most is the people that I work with, and I say that because I have such a high regard for the professionalism of the people in our newsroom. I see it every single day. These people work so hard at their job. They have such a high level of integrity. As I've said earlier, they work so hard at being accurate and putting stories not only in context, but kind of drawing upon their background. One thing that readers might not know is that we have people in our newsroom, a large number of people in our newsroom, that have worked at the News-Gazette for decades, and I emphasize decades with a plural, because it is absolutely true. People that have worked at our paper for 20 years, for 30 years, or for over 30 years. And these are people that are not only employees of the News-Gazette, they're members of this community. They send their children to the Champaign-Urbana schools, or in the case of our reporters in Danville, they have family members that work within this community whose livelihood depends upon a really vibrant job market in this area. And so it's important to us, for Champaign-Urbana and for Danville, to be a quality community, and we're not just observing it, we're part of it. And I think that's important to know, that when we go out and do interviews, and when we write stories, we can draw upon a really vast knowledge of this community because of the length of time that we have worked in this community. And so I feel like we bring a real value to putting things in context, to drawing upon the history of a particular topic, not just what is going on now, but putting it in the context of what has happened in the past for several decades perhaps. It's also important that we, again, because of our longevity of so many of our reporters, I think there's a trust factor that when we interview members at the University of Illinois and academics, when we interview local public school officials, when we interview government officials, when we interview people in the community involved in private business, I think when we come to them, we have already proven ourselves to them. And I think there's that trust factor that when we are interviewing them, particularly on topics that may be kind of sensitive, I think there's a trust that we talked about earlier with these particular subjects that people at the News-Gazette, we've developed that trust with them.